How many kids did you guys want to have?
We wanted to have 4. Yeah. And I was praying to God that I was pregnant when he got murdered.
Oh, wow. I thought of that once. Just like whether it was meant to be or whether we'd get news like that.
I was like, oh, goodness, that would be the ultimate blessing out of this catastrophe.
We're breaking this wide open right now because what looked like a grieving widow's tender confession has detonated into the ugliest political whisper campaign we've seen all year. Erika Kirk's tearful pregnancy reveal is no longer landing as a tribute to her late husband. Insiders are now insisting it's code for something far more explosive, that the baby might belong to Vice President J.D. Vance, erupting just weeks after Charlie Kirk's public tragedy and threatening to scorch his marriage, his standing inside the Trump West Wing orbit, and the perfect Christian family Sheen Republicans have been polishing since Inauguration Day.
Are you talking about Charlie's? So, I don't listen to Candace's show, but I am 100% convinced that Charlie was killed by Tyler Robinson, a crazed leftist who murdered him because he didn't like Charlie's messaging on the trans issue.
Let's rewind to the tape. Charlie Kirk's life ended in a campus attack on September 10th while he was speaking at Utah Valley University. 5 days later, his widow's following surged by millions, and by October, she was headlining Turning Point USA events as newly appointed CEO. Fast forward to her Megyn Kelly appearance, when Erika reveals she prayed she was expecting in the immediate aftermath of the shooting. But here's the math that set every group chat on fire. With Erika now described by sources as 8 weeks along, the timeline allegedly points to conception after September 10th. That's where insiders started drawing a straight line to the Turning Point event at Ole Miss on October 29th, where cameras caught the now infamous embrace between Erika and JD, his hands on her waist, her fingers through his hair. The clip went viral in hours, and allegedly, that was when Usha Vance stopped seeing rumors and started seeing a betrayal. By early November, sources around Turning Point were already whispering that the hug had changed the weather inside the Vance household.
To drive you crazy and to just go, okay, I'm just going to accept whenever the authority says something and not prod any further. We can't allow that to happen here. I won't allow that to happen here because this something terrible has traumatized the world, okay? And I feel as though when it comes to this, the media, the government, the talking heads, everyone is confusing us about what actually took place.
Staffers tell us that what followed was weeks of silence broken by legal calls, not PR spin. Usha, who had stood beside Erika at Charlie's memorial on September 21st and even held her hand days after the tragedy, is now said to be preparing a legal playbook that reads like scorched earth. People close to her claim she contacted counsel to fast-track options barely days after the pregnancy clip metastasized across X and TikTok. No confirmation from the Vances yet, but 2 officials say the atmosphere is beyond repair. And then there's the contradiction that fuels the fire. How does a woman in open mourning become the power broker of a youth movement in a matter of weeks, while also presenting a pregnancy that doesn't square neatly with the calendar? Since October, Erika has been everywhere, from Fox News to campus stages talking about justice in Tyler Robinson's upcoming trial, demanding courtroom cameras, and rallying donors behind her as the new face of Turning Point. On October 29th at Ole Miss, she didn't just introduce the vice president. She praised him publicly, saying she saw similarities between him and Charlie, a moment that read as devotion to some and a provocation to others. Inside the movement, a quieter war has been simmering. Candace Owens, once Charlie's communications director, has been unloading a different kind of ammunition. In late October, she released text messages from April 2018, in which Charlie warned he might not see the end of this revolution, messages she says predicted his own tragedy. Owens went further, floating theories about suspicious behavior in the immediate aftermath and even pointing fingers at insiders, claims that Turning Point executives blasted as reckless and cruel. The organization insists Owens has gone too far. Owens insists she's finally being proven right.
But she didn't call for war. Erika did not call for war. In fact, she did the exact opposite, which is what was so stunning. It was unbelievable. The forgiveness that she granted, the strength that it took for her to call for that forgiveness, it's just unmatched, and it really made a difference. And I was being serious when I tweeted that I think it was the most consequential speech in American history, a message that...
Now she claims vindication is in plain sight. According to people who've worked with her, Owens believes Erika's rise and the pregnancy reveal are part of a larger pattern she says she called years ago: ambition cloaked in faith. And in private circles, that belief has hardened into an accusation that Erika didn't just arrive in the inner circle. She hunted a future. It doesn't help that social feeds are stuffed with screenshots of Erika in intimate moments with powerful men at award shows and donor events, a pattern critics use to argue this is a climb, not a collapse. All of this would already be combustible, but the blast radius gets wider when you factor in J.D. Vance's own words about his marriage. Just days after the Ole Miss embrace, he told an audience he hoped his wife would eventually embrace his faith, igniting a separate firestorm about pressure inside an interfaith marriage. Usha Vance responded online, saying she had no plans to convert. Insiders say the conversation at home was far more brutal than the tweet. By early November, eagle-eyed watchers noticed that Usha stepped out without her wedding ring on an official engagement. Her office brushed it off as domestic chaos. No one on Capitol Hill bought it. Meanwhile, the politics are turning radioactive. Turning Point is openly discussing its endorsement plans for 2028, with Erika telling Megyn Kelly that Charlie had been intentional about supporting JD for that race. That's not small talk. That's an anointment.
And I have felt that so much in the last 2 years, and I finally feel free because they can't take anything from me because I own everything. And I understand his message so much more now than when it was all happening. And that's why you need to have people that are brave, because it inspires you to be brave when the world is coming down on you, when the matrix is coming down on you for telling the truth.
And it's happening under a cloud that could alarm donors, alienate church leaders, and hand opposition researchers a weapon they'll swing for years. A vice president with an alleged affair, a mysteriously timed pregnancy, and a marriage in freefall is not a narrative anybody in the West Wing can quarantine. Usha's anger, we're told, isn't just personal. It's strategic. Friends say she's less interested in a quiet exit than in a public accounting. If the whispers about receipts are true, the story won't end with a filing. It will unpack calendars, phone records, and a map of who knew what and when. One party insider says the calculation is simple. If this detonates before midterms, it could crater down ballot races. If it waits, it could poison 2028. And here's the twist that keeps even seasoned operatives awake. Owens doesn't just think the pregnancy scandal is about a relationship. She frames it as a clue. To her listeners, Charlie's 2018 texts don't read like paranoia. They read like a warning. And when she looks at Erika's sudden elevation, she doesn't see grief. She sees succession, which raises the question nobody in the inner circle wants whispered, but everybody is. If that baby isn't Charlie's, then what else has been misdirected in the weeks since September 10th, and whose interests were being advanced while the movement grieved? The official story remains tidy. Tyler Robinson awaits trial. Erika demands transparency. JD keeps his head down. Usha keeps her distance. But behind that, sources say alliances are shifting and files are being quietly assembled. Donors are calling lawyers, aides are checking exit clauses. And the woman at the center of it all is still stepping on stage, still leading chants, still presenting herself as the keeper of Charlie's flame at exactly the moment people claim a very different fire is burning behind closed doors.
Charlie was not silenced. His movement is only beginning. The voices of millions globally have been awakened, furthering his cause and mission far beyond anyone's comprehension. We won't cower in fear. We will never surrender. We are resolved to live free from lies and seek out what is true.
If there's a tell in politics, it's silence. And right now, the vice president's office is saying almost nothing while the story is eating everything in reach. When power goes quiet like that, it's either because there's nothing to say or because every word would make it worse. Sources familiar with the Vance marriage say it's the latter. They describe a household in controlled meltdown, attorneys trading drafts, and a patience that feels like a fuse. Because if and when those documents go public, they won't read like a private separation. They'll read like an indictment, and the names they drag into daylight could turn this from a scandal into a reckoning that nobody in the Trump universe is prepared to survive. But the tension didn't stop with whispers and viral hand placements. What's surfacing now is a much deeper pattern, one that's leaving even seasoned insiders asking whether Charlie Kirk saw it coming. Back in 2018, years before he was gunned down in front of thousands, Charlie texted Candace Owens that he feared he wouldn't see the end of this revolution, comparing himself to Moses, the leader who never reached the promised land. At the time, most dismissed it as dramatic flair, but now, Owens is framing those words as foresight. Not about a stranger's attack, but something more personal. According to people close to her, Candace believes Charlie wasn't just haunted by danger. He was sensing betrayal. And in that theory, what happened after his tragedy starts to look less like grief and more like a premeditated shift.
You know, he sees things in a lot of people. In some way, beautifully saved me from a huge mistake of putting career over family and career over husband, because it's easy to do when, as a female, when you see bright lights, big city, but he...
Erika's rise to CEO of Turning Point USA was rapid, yes, but insiders claim it was strategic. Less than a week after the loss, she had stepped into leadership, rebranded the national tour in his honor, and began publicly aligning the organization's future with JD Vance. Critics have started connecting dots between that fast-tracked elevation and the timeline of her pregnancy reveal, speculating that the soft launch moment on Megyn Kelly's show may not have been an accident. Former staffers say the whispers began before the Utah Valley University event even ended, that something in Erika's demeanor felt rehearsed, even prophetic. Now, with her calling for full courtroom transparency in the Robinson trial, sources claim she's shifting the focus deliberately, trying to position herself as a crusader for truth while quietly distancing from the chaos erupting around her. It's no coincidence that Owens is back in the headlines, demanding people take a second look at what they thought was just a hug. According to her latest claims, Erika and JD weren't caught in a moment of shared grief. They were signaling a new phase. Owens has alleged the embrace at Ole Miss was carefully staged, meant to introduce a dynamic that was already well underway behind the scenes. She's pointed to the sudden emergence of Erika's faith-heavy language, the matching public narratives about shared purpose, and the eerie way JD's comments about Usha's spiritual beliefs dropped just days after the Ole Miss event. That clip, where he admits he hopes his Hindu wife will see things the same way, didn't just spark cultural backlash. According to conservative insiders, it shattered the illusion of a unified front. And then came the ring.
She really is just the moment. The speech that she gave, everybody was just wowed by her. I felt my energy personally, like last night going into that, I was effectively like soaring in the air above the convention center, like a dragon above, waiting for Erika to just be like, fire. And I was just gonna come down and swoop in out of nowhere. All the politicians, all the fake people, everyone was just gonna be, in that moment, toast.
Usha Vance stepping out without her wedding band during an official appearance alongside Melania Trump wasn't just a visual anomaly. It was a political earthquake. A spokesperson tried to downplay it, blaming it on chores and childcare, but even longtime donors weren't buying it. Aides say it was the tipping point, the moment private speculation crossed into strategic calculation. Sources familiar with the legal talks now allege Usha's preparing to make a clean break, targeting not just separation but full-scale asset division, custody rights, and potentially even public testimony. And if those filings surface during JD's vice presidency, the fallout could stretch straight into Trump's inner circle. What's more unsettling is the reemergence of Mikey McCoy, Charlie's chief of staff and longtime friend, whose post-shooting behavior is now under renewed scrutiny thanks to Owens' claims. In a now viral clip, McCoy is seen making a mysterious phone call seconds after the shot rang out. Owens has insinuated that McCoy's actions weren't panic. They were coordination. She's even suggested, according to people familiar with her podcast planning, that McCoy's call timeline may intersect with Erika's own movements that day. The idea? That what happened at Utah Valley wasn't random. That Charlie's exit wasn't just tragic. It was convenient. Allegations like this are incendiary, and Turning Point has officially denounced them as disgusting. But the speculation keeps growing, especially as more influencers begin threading the possibility that this wasn't about removing a leader. It was about clearing the way for a restructured donor-friendly empire with Erika and JD at its helm. Of course, none of this has been confirmed by Turning Point or the Vance office.
I don't think they don't not benefit.
Yeah.
But to me, it smelled like this crazy inside job.
Yeah.
And then now we're seeing all the people involved and the post-campaign of these people that are alleged or seem really suspicious, their rhetoric and what they're saying once they go out into the world, and they're everywhere.
They've stayed quiet, hoping, it seems, that silence will deflate the narrative. But the lack of denial is starting to echo louder than any statement could. As Candace Owens leans into her vindication arc, more former allies are breaking ranks, quietly admitting that they once brushed off her concerns about Erika's ambition, only to now see patterns they ignored. Some have pointed to Erika's string of emotional interviews where grief and branding blur. Others are questioning how the organization's messaging shifted so fast, seamlessly sliding from eulogizing Charlie to spotlighting JD's talking points. But behind those performances, a darker theory is beginning to gain traction, the so-called widow's fire hypothesis. It's the idea that Erika's grief didn't just spark a healing journey, but allegedly ignited an ambition that had long been buried under Charlie's towering presence. Former Turning Point contributors now claim that in private, the Kirk's marriage had been under strain for months before the Utah Valley tragedy. While there's no direct evidence of a rupture, whispers of growing friction, creative disagreements, divergent religious goals, even quiet arguments over Charlie's increasingly controversial podcast content have resurfaced. Sources familiar with the couple suggest that Erika's sudden embrace of J.D. Vance's political vision may have been less about mourning and more about maneuvering, recasting Charlie's mission through the lens of a new ideological partner. Adding fuel to that theory is the alleged shift in how Turning Point USA is managing donor relations. Candace Owens has repeatedly hinted that the organization's fundraising pipeline has begun rerouting behind closed doors, favoring new, faith-forward campaigns that mirror Erika and J.D.'s public messaging. One former finance staffer claims that legacy donors aligned with Charlie's libertarian streak are being quietly edged out in favor of religious nationalist contributors more compatible with a potential Vance presidential run. It's still unconfirmed, but several watchdog groups are reportedly looking into suspicious patterns in Turning Point's donation disclosures filed after Charlie's passing, with speculation that at least one Super PAC might be indirectly funneling funds toward a new leadership structure not yet public. The implications of that pivot are staggering. If the rumors hold, this pregnancy isn't just a personal scandal. It's the soft launch of an entirely new power axis within the conservative movement. Not only would it mark a public betrayal of Charlie's legacy, but it could signal a strategic hijacking of the organization he built, using his widow's image to disguise a foundational transformation. We're now hearing fears that the Erika and JD narrative, if left unchecked, might be leveraged to sanitize a coordinated realignment of MAGA youth culture, replacing old guard values with something more palatable to the post-2026 religious right. And if that's the case, this isn't just about a baby. It's about a movement being rewritten in real time by people who know exactly how to play the part. Even Trump's own actions are now being re-examined. His public comfort of Erika during the Medal of Freedom ceremony was framed as compassion, but insiders say it also played as a blessing, signaling that whatever came next had his approval. But if the affair rumors unravel publicly, and if a divorce between JD and Usha goes scorched earth, that image could implode. Suddenly, the perfect Christian family the administration leans on for cultural legitimacy might look like a fragile performance scripted to distract from chaos within. And that brings us to the question nobody wants to ask aloud, but everyone is circling. If Charlie Kirk's prophetic texts weren't about outside enemies, what if he was warning us about something much closer? Something unfolding right under his nose? Because if the betrayal didn't come from the crowd, if it came from the people who claimed to love him most, then the entire moral foundation of the movement he built starts to crack. So now we're left watching the fire spread. Erika's smile tightens under the lights. JD avoids reporters. Usha sharpens her legal strategy. Candace smiles through the storm. And the rest of us are stuck wondering, what secrets still haven't surfaced? And who's next in the blast zone? But what do you think? Was this just a tragic timeline twisted by grief and gossip? Or is there something darker hiding beneath the smiles and scripture? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe, because this storm is far from over. Until next time, stay curious and stay watching.